Welcome back to the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio for today's episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today. News just came out. JT Gray is a second-team All-Pro, so that's a good little accolade for the Saints there with him. More than deserving of it. Former Saint Zach Bond, a first-team All-Pro at linebacker. That's kind of a little bit of a stab on him. But the coaching search continues on, and we're going to talk about that today in the lead topic presented by Urban South. What do we think of the Saints eyeing so many offensive coordinators? They got a lot of guys on their list. Darren Rizzi, Mike Vrabel, Aaron Glenn, Anthony Weaver are not offensive people. But then you got Cliff Kingsbury, Joe Brady, Kellen Moore, Mike Kafka as offensive coordinators vying for this job. What do you kind of make of half the field being guys on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I have said the thing I think they need most is sort of that leader of men type because we saw that erode so much. I used to always be like, hey, the head coach opening is the only way you can get the most brilliant offensive minds in the NFL, the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan model that half the league started copying with all their assistants. And I thought that's what the Saints needed for a long time when their offense grew stale. Now I think it's the culture and the leadership and what's the direction of this team? What's the plan for this team? What are players going to buy into? And so that is where I'm leaning. But I know you've said you might still, and I'm going to let you talk about it. You might still prefer, no, give me a great offense, and that's what people will buy into. And it definitely seemed like those are probably the four bigger surprise names on the list. The other ones, Rizzi, Vrabel, and Glenn, are on everyone's list. We knew they were going to be on there. So out of the five candidates we didn't know for sure would be on the list, four of them are offensive coordinators. Some of them are, Kafka's a surprising name, in addition to Brady and Moore and Kingsbury, who've been talked about a lot. So it makes me feel like the Saints are more open to that being, I feel like it's almost like Glenn, Rizzi, or an offensive coordinator is kind of what I feel like is what's going to happen here.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Cliff Kingsbury in particular is kind of interesting to me on multiple levels. One, I like just talking to him because finding out, hey, how have you helped Jaden Daniels hit the ground running so fast? If they go with Rattler next year, like you probably need some of that development, or you're looking for your guy soon, and just kind of knowing that you can do that. I think, just seeing the insight on how somebody's doing it so well is really interesting to me. But I think Cliff Kingsbury might have the best PR of any coach I've ever seen. Unless
it's Kellen Moore.
Well, I don't even know about that, but like Cliff Kingsbury is a two-time head coach with a losing record at both places, and I've just never seen, like, people were excited about that one, and like it was surprising to me to kind of see the reaction. 35-40 in college, 28-37-1 in the NFL. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. Right. I was just surprised that coming off a coach with a losing record that got hired, and everybody was so outraged about, like, how can you hire somebody with a losing record, and now you're interviewing somebody with it, and people are like, oh, I kind of like that, like. It's just the reactions are surprising to me. And
what's the difference between Cliff Kingsbury and Matt Nagy? Like his styling?
I don't know.
Does he look more polished? I mean, or is offensive definitely more innovative?
And I saw Connor Orr predict that Matt Nagy is going to get the and Matt Nagy has a winning record as an NFL
winning
coach,
record. He was NFL Coach of the Year,
yeah.
And he's an Andy Reid assistant, and people don't look at like he's seen as more of a failure than Kingsbury.
It's kind of fascinating. Yeah, it really is kind of fascinating how things are viewed. I like Kellen Moore, though, and I'm not against Cliff Kingsbury. To me, the guy with the most upside on this whole entire list is Joe Brady. I think that's the guy that if you take a swing and you hit, like, he might be the Grand Slam candidate on this list. I think he has more upside than anybody. You kind of catch an innovative young person, 35 years old, maybe at a time where there's a ton of upside. He's made Josh Allen a lot better. He's taken that Bills offense and kind of got it, out of the mud. They made a move late last season because their offense was stuck in the mud. He got it out of the mud. I mean, that isn't just being tied in with a great quarterback because the person in that job before him kind of got stuck a little bit, and he's answered the call. I like him a lot. I mean, I think if you're asking me to make like power rankings, I don't know how I put him, but he's somewhere near the top. I think if we're taking Vrabel and putting him in
I don't think he's a realistic
New England
candidate.
I think then at that point, it's Aaron Glenn feels like the safest pick out of this list, and Joe Brady feels like the one with the most upside. But you could sell me on Kellen Moore. I was surprised how many people in the league. I kind of went around asking people with different teams, their take on the various candidates. I was surprised how many people had a positive viewpoint on Mike Kafka, because like he's just kind of. It just kind of feels like, like if you look at his wiki page and read through his jobs and everything, but people really, really like him. Like I think his kind of stock in league circles is different than maybe it is outside of league circles.
Well, you know what's so funny about these candidates? I used to joke about this with the Saints and Joe Lombardi. The worst thing Joe Lombardi ever did was go become the Lions offensive coordinator. Someone saw him fail at that job, and he's off the list. I think he would have had a better chance of getting hired as a head coach if he was just the Saints QB coach who had only worked for Sean Payton. And that's kind of true of Kafka. Like, I think he would have gotten a head coaching job by now if he stayed the Chiefs passing game coordinator. And people are like, he's part of the Chiefs. He's part of Pat Mahomes. He's part of Andy Reid. Going to the Giants probably makes him a better coach, but makes him look worse. But you know what the funniest thing, you did a detailed article on these candidates everyone needs to check out on NewOrleans.Football. I won't give away too much, but the biggest surprise in the whole article to me was I forgot that the Giants went to the playoffs and won a playoff game. I thought during his 3 years in New York, they went 4-13 all 3 years. I forgot they were a playoff team with Daniel Jones just 2 years ago.
There was a point in time where Daboll looked like a grand slam hire. Like he looked like they found like the next great coach, and they didn't.
I'm actually intrigued by the fact that, did he get 3 head coaching looks so far? Like
every year,
I'm kind of intrigued by the fact that he's viewed that way. And Kellen Moore, obviously the same. Like, Kellen Moore is sort of a victim of when he left Dallas, he took a job with a Charger staff that got fired. We're going to probably see the same thing happen with Clint Kubiak. It doesn't necessarily mean he did a bad job with the Chargers, and then he had to go to the Eagles. But the intriguing thing about Kellen Moore of this bunch is I feel like he's been studying to become a head coach for 3 or 4 years since this is now his like 4th year in this cycle. Reminds me a little of Sean Payton. He turned down the Raiders job and then went to work for Parcells and took notes. How can I become a better head coach? I bet that's what Kellen Moore has been doing in these various stops. Although working for Brandon Staley and Nick Sirianni is not the same as going to work for Bill Parcells. But I am a little shell-shocked on these guys. Like, I would be all for it. Like, if we were doing a Bears podcast right now and we're talking about who's going to guide Caleb Williams, or when the Panthers hired and Dave Canales to guide Bryce Young, I'd be really intrigued by the names on the list. I'm just so shell-shocked from the last few years of the Saints, where we saw sort of non-alpha personalities like Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, and Clint Kubiak to an extent really struggle. Really, when things were going bad, they didn't have answers. They didn't rise above their circumstances. They didn't get the buy-in from the locker room. And I am worried about people if I think that's a question mark about them. How would you work around it? Can you do something as simple as, okay, it's Joe Brady, but I make sure his defensive coordinator is like Wink Martindale or something like that? Or like he gets an assistant head coach like Dan Campbell? Would that solve all of that? Like,
I think
how do you work around that if you're the Saints?
Look, I want somebody that's good at coaching the side of the ball. Honestly, like if you take Dan Campbell, like Dan Campbell's got a great situation, but if both his coordinators leave, what are they a year from now? Like, look what happened to Philly last year. Like Sirianni kind of, he's an offensive coach, but he lost his coordinators. Like that program went to mud too. And I kind of like what Kellen Moore is going through there, just kind of seeing how you heal a culture and everything. But I'm not hiring somebody just because they can stand in the room and get everybody behind them. Like, I don't think that's enough of a reason. And I don't think that's enough of a reason to not hire somebody either. Like, if you think Joe Brady's the best coach and he has the most upside, you got to fill out around him. It's just, it's every coach is going to have a blind spot. Like, if you get the great OC that can command a room, that's Sean Payton, you still have to find the right DC. Like, and Sean didn't necessarily do that every single year that he was here. So
rarely did it.
You always have to fill out a staff. So I think you get the best possible coach, the guy that has the best vision for everything. And if you got to get an enforcer with them, then that's part of the thing. If you get a leader of men, you still got to hire an OC and a DC. So like, there's 2 people you got to hire.
It's way harder to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
if you hire Joe Brady and you need to find a Dan Campbell and a DC, that's still 2 pieces of the puzzle that you kind of got to put together. But I think you do have to go in it with the idea of, okay, like if I were hiring Joe Brady or even Kellen Moore, probably, I need to probably get the DC that's probably been a head coach at some point in his life, has that experience, can kind of help with some of that administrative
Vic
work.
Fangio, who's paired with Kellen Moore right now.
Yeah, like someone like that. I think that's just kind of what you got to do. I think you just have to really be aware of what the holes are in somebody's game and make sure you're filling in around them.
Darren Rizzi would be the perfect type of person to pair with a coach like that. I don't think it should be Darren Rizzi here in that situation because everyone would just go to Rizzi. Like the other guy might feel like the substitute teacher, which is an unfortunate way of looking at things. It's funny. I did this with Kevin on the Members Only podcast. Everyone should check that out. Subscribe if you need to hear it. But I just started scrolling through NFL teams to be like, who got hires right? And there was no rhyme or reason. I mean, first of all, 75% of them are, I think, people who got it wrong, and 25% is people who got it right. And there's wide variety in the people who got it right. But the coach of the year this year is probably going to be Kevin O'Connell, who fits that.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever heard Kevin O'Connell? Has anyone ever said what a fiery? Are people posting Kevin O'Connell's post-game speeches on Twitter every single week like they are Dan Campbell? No, but he's going to win Coach of the Year. So if you're good, you're good.
Yeah. Look, and I think what everybody always leans toward, naturally at the beginning of this, I was leaning toward it too. Is like, well, you want the opposite of what it was, but I don't necessarily think that's always the best way or the only way, or if you just get the right coach, you get the right coach. You get somebody with the right vision, you can get people around them to help enforce it. And I think if you are winning and you bring success and people see what you're doing has, logic and merit and all that stuff, they're going to get behind you. I don't think you have to stand up there and be, we're going to go bite kneecaps. Like, I think if Alvin Kamara sees that you have a good plan and you're smart and you can explain why you're doing things, then he's going to get behind you. I think they're all going to get behind you. Like any type of player in that type of situation, I think can get behind you. They just have to see that, like, they know what you're doing. And I think there's more than one way to be a strong alpha type presence too. Like, you don't necessarily, again, have to be biting kneecaps to be an alpha. Like, I think Kevin O'Connell probably is an alpha in his own lane of I'm very confident in what I do. I can explain it. I can articulate it. And if you challenge me on a point, I'm able to explain to you why I'm doing it, and I can stand my ground instead of being a pushover. Like, I think there's more than one way to kind of command a room. And I think you just have to have somebody that's very strong in their belief. But like, if it's a more subdued personality, you do need a headbuster on staff for when somebody's getting out of pocket and they can go and, check them and everything. And
who's the headbuster on our staff? Is that you?
Probably so.
Yeah, I agree. Again, to steal from what I said on the members only, it's a very unspecific term, but I said what this team needs more than anything else is buy-in, and you can get buy-in for all those reasons you just said. That's exactly what you're just articulating. If people believe you have the best offense in the league, you're going to get buy-in, even if you don't have a big personality. It's and the reason for hiring one of these offensive coordinators is you can get one of the top 5 most coveted minds if you have a head coaching option. If you hire Aaron Glenn and then you go to try to hire an offensive coordinator, you're probably not getting one of the top 25 most coveted offensive minds. It's a lot harder to hire an offensive coordinator than it is to offer one of these guys the head coaching job. And the last point, you mentioned Joe Brady's 35, Kellen Moore 36, Mike Kafka 37. So there's definitely a type there.
Just real quick, I got a bunch of people in my mentions. Aaron Glenn just completed a virtual meeting with the Saints, and they're all like, virtual? Like, why is it just virtual? All he can do right now is virtual. All he's allowed to do right now is virtual. He's not allowed to do in-person interviews because they are a team in the playoffs, so they can't do in-person interviews.
Yeah, a couple more things on that. So all these teams in the playoffs can only do virtual now, and then they cannot take their in-person visit until either the bye week before the Super Bowl, if their team's in the Super Bowl, or obviously when their team gets eliminated. So if Detroit, who earned the number 1 seed, makes it to the Super Bowl, that means we are still 3 weeks away from either Aaron Glenn or Ben Johnson being able to take an in-person visit anywhere. To satisfy the Rooney Rule, you have to have in-person visits with minority candidates too. So if Detroit makes the Super Bowl, the way Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are so coveted, I think this could be a long process for multiple teams.
Yeah, because I mean, like, if it's the Saints and the Jets, the dominoes might have to fall.
Two of the most coveted coaches probably won't have final decisions until the week of the Super Bowl. So
hopefully they like whisper word to everybody that's like not in it, so they can just make their moves and kind of see how it goes from there. But yeah, I mean, just to wrap up that last topic, we were kind of shining some light on Kafka, and I'm not endorsing anyone to be the head coach or not be the head coach because like I don't really have that strong of an opinion. But on my like excitement power rankings, if they hired Kafka, I think that probably would be the one that made me the least excited out of all of them.
We do also have to mention, keep monitoring what's going on in Dallas. Mike McCarthy will be a candidate for this job.
Yeah.
If he parts ways with Dallas, I don't know if he'll immediately become the front runner, but he will be a serious candidate, and I don't think that would generate a lot of fan excitement. But he would be a different type than everyone else we're talking about on this list.
Let me add a word to your sentence. I think you would be an extremely serious candidate for this job, and I think that interest would be reciprocated.
Yes.
So we'll see what kind of goes on.
I think he would. I still might rank Aaron Glenn as the front runner. I would rank Mike McCarthy right next to him, right below him.
Who would you like? And we honestly don't know. Like who do you think would be next on the list after the eliminating Vrabel?
If I had to put Vegas odds on all the other guys, since the other guys are all such a tie, I mean, I almost might put Rizzy next, but I mean, I still think Rizzy only has like a 15% chance of getting the job, but I don't think I could put any of those guys at 20 or 25%. Like, it's tough. It's tough. I really don't know. I mean, I honestly think right now I would go Aaron Glenn, Mike McCarthy, and then a 5-way tie between Rizzy and all those other guys that got listed.
I would go AG/Brady right there. If you had to put McCarthy, I'd probably insert McCarthy in between them, but I think it's them and then everybody else. That's my guess on it, my read on it. But I don't know. That's just my guess. All right, moving on to the next topic, the lottery presented by the Louisiana Lottery. Chris Olave, obviously went through a lot this offseason. Me and Brandon talked to him the other day. B's in the back there. I meant to get him a mic and a camera, and I forgot to bring him to set him up, but we'll have him back on camera and on mic soon. But he told us that he still wants to be, his goal is to be a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Obviously, there's a lot that would go into making that happen. But just in general, even outside of that statement of top 5, do you still have confidence in his upside, his development? Is anything rattled for you?
Yeah, it's rattled. I mean, it's rattled on health alone. Hopefully concussions, hopefully there's some randomness to that. Hopefully he can go the next 2 years without a single concussion. I don't know if the science says he's now more predisposed to future concussions.
I think within a year, I read something, but I'm not a doctor here. But I think
so. I
think after you get one, you're kind of susceptible for like the next one, like within a year, like your odds of getting one is easier.
Hopefully that shouldn't be factored into this conversation, but you can't. I mean, obviously, the strength issue that we've always talked about, the size issue that we've always talked about. I mean, he's more susceptible to a guy's not going to bounce off of him. If he takes a hit in the air, he's going to land and could be susceptible to injury. So the missed games concern me a little bit. And the fact that they're going to be bringing in the 3rd different offense that he's run in 4 years. I don't know if he's going to get the 3rd different starting quarterback or, 6th different quarterback overall or whatever that's going to be. And just the fact that this offense has so many holes in it that, he needs to be paired with physical receivers so he doesn't get the kind of coverage he gets. Like, there's just lots of reasons for me to think he can't just overcome all those circumstances and dominate no matter what. We've seen rookies come into the league now. We've seen Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors both go straight to 110 catches, and he hasn't sniffed that yet. So yeah, I'm a little concerned. I'm still I think it's very good. He's maybe the top asset the Saints have. He's on a short list of the top assets the Saints have. I think if he got to play 17 games, and especially if they hired, an offensive coordinator or a head coach who brings in a great offense, I'm still going to be thinking he's underrated in fantasy, and he could be having the Terry McLaurin season that he's having under Cliff Kingsbury this year. But confidence shaken, sure, of course, a little bit.
He said he's going to work out his neck this offseason. That's going to be kind of his plan to keep it going. I'm not worried about his talent at all.
No,
the whole offense part of that. Like I vehemently disagree with that. We've seen him succeed in 2 offenses, and like one of them was the shittiest offense like in the last 15 years. Like, and he came into the league and hit the ground running. Had 1,100 yards last year. If he wouldn't have got hurt this year, he probably would have had 1,100 again. Like, I mean, obviously the quarterback situation would have played a part in that, but like he was going to get his numbers if he stayed healthy, and there probably would have been like he was playing in a very bad offense, like if he didn't hit him. Like I'm not worried about his talent at all. I think the talent's there. I think it's just a matter of the concussion aspect of it, and can he stay on the field? And that's kind of unfair to speculate about. Like I don't know. Like he's just gonna have to do it. But I mean, I think obviously anyone, once there's like an injury seal broke, you're looking a little bit. But honestly, like I'm probably more worried about Eric McCoy missing games than Chris Olave.
Sure.
You know, he had a season of bad luck, but I think you got to protect yourself significantly. But I don't know. I don't know if it's fair to kind of look at him like he's like injury prone now or something like that.
No,
incredibly
and I don't
tough.
ever like list that as a negative for someone, but I mean, you can't ignore it either. Yeah.
If we're putting, you know, if we're going to pencil in stats though for next year, like I'm penciling him in for 10, 50, 1,100 yards again. Like I don't think, and I think that's probably what I would have looked at going into this year. Maybe I was a little bit higher on that, but like I'm still looking at him as being above that 1,000-yard barrier going into next season.
To me, I thought he was going to way exceed that. I still think he could. I thought he should be a 1,350, 1,400 guy. And I thought it was weird that he only had 4 and 5 touchdowns, and it should be closer to 8, 9, 10 touchdowns. And then he goes through this season, he only has 1 touchdown in the 8 games he played. It really only 6 games he played. 2 of them he left so early. So I'm when I say my confidence is a little rattled, I think we might just see, 80-some catches, 1,100 yards from him.
I think that's great,
year.
though.
I don't know if we're ever going to see 109 catches, 1,400 yards, which is what I used to think we were going to see from him.
I think if you dropped him on a field with like Joe Burrow, you see that, or like Josh Allen.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, but that would be the confidence in like the Saints more so than like the individual player.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think
that's what I was talking about. Circumstances,
yes.
What offense they're in, who he's paired with, is there more talent around him, who's his quarterback? But yeah, I used to think he was just scratching the surface when he had 83 catches and 1050, and that it was going to be. I mean, I was about to look up the leaders this year. I mean, like, I think Malik Neighbors came right in the league and had 109 catches and 1,300 yards and stuff. Like I thought that would have happened for Chris Olave by now, and now that it hasn't happened for 3 years for all these different reasons. You can't just automatically think it'll happen in year 4.
That's fair. I mean, that's absolutely fair. I mean, but yeah. That's circumstance probably as much as anything to do with him. But yeah, I would agree with that. Like I don't know that I'm looking for him to take Derek Carr to a 1,700 yard season or something like that. Like I think that's probably a little bit unrealistic. But then again, if those two were healthy the whole season, maybe like I think the numbers are probably the best they've ever been if they get a whole season together. So I don't know. What were they in the first 2 weeks are so fake, but
we were talking about how Olave wasn't part of it at the beginning. Remember, like that was a storyline once, and it was like I'm not worried about it because 7 other guys caught passes. Remember when that was the storyline?
Well, that was just the first game, and then the next
like
3 games,
Carolina 1 for 13. Then
the next 3 games he was over 80.
No, the first Carolina game 2 for 11.
Yeah, and then he was over 80 the next 3 games.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the numbers were gonna.
Yeah,
probably
I agree.
be there. Kansas City, they were banged up. The Tampa game, bad QBs, 107. Yeah, I mean, I think the numbers would have been there if he had stayed healthy and Carr had stayed healthy, probably. All right. Anyways, we're gonna hit a quick break here, and we will be right back with more show. Ochsner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number 1 grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. The whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room, because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hard Hide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. Welcome back to our studio here next door to my guy, Matt Bowers. If you're in the market for a new car, make sure you go check out Matt, one of his many dealerships throughout the region. If you're going to buy a car, shop local, shop from Matt, and make sure you get yourself that new car. Going into our next topic presented by Aaron Rose. Saints got to have a quarterback playing next year. Let's say Derek Carr is not part of the team. You going Spencer Rattler, or would you rather QB draft?
I thought of this question last night when I was watching Penn State Notre Dame, and at one point Drew Aller was having a good game, and I thought, man, I wonder if
shit the bed.
I was thinking, I wonder if Drew Aller can lead Penn State to the national championship, declare for the draft, and then the Saints could draft him with the 9th pick. Would that like put everyone in a good mood or whatever? And then obviously he played really bad afterward. But it just made me think. So like with the 9th pick, or if you trade up a couple spots, I don't know how high Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are going to go, but do you have to, do you hope somebody else that if you squint, you kind of like them, find your own Bo Nix, find your own J.J. McCarthy? I don't even know if that exists in this year's draft class. But what I was starting to think is, would that be like blocking Spencer Rattler? Like, would we rather see the Saints take a full year evaluation of Spencer Rattler before they bring in a Drew Aller or a Quinn Ewers or a Cam Ward? Like, and I kind of am like, save the resources. Get me an offensive tackle, get me a receiver, get me a defensive end, and let me look at Spencer Rattler for a year. I kind of feel that way with this draft class in particular.
Yeah, I'm okay either way. I mean, if like you felt like there was somebody there, take him.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced on anyone at 9 at this point though.
Yeah, definitely not.
Carson Beck sucks. Like he's going to Miami, I guess. I don't know. I don't know who the other people even are in that range. If like Shedeur or Ward were sitting there at 9, maybe I'd want to take a chance on one of them and maybe see how it goes. If you really like one of them. Haven't looked that closely at either one yet, but if there's somebody you like better than Spencer, sure, take him. But I'm not forcing a pick, and I'm cool with seeing what Spencer can do for a year too. Like find out that way, and then go from there.
Is there any way he's in that conversation though? Like I don't know this stuff. Like, and when you say if you love someone, and that is the most important thing, we say that all the time. Sean Payton saw something in Bo Nix, and that worked out. So we don't even know who the head coach and the offensive coordinator are. So that is a huge qualifier in here. But like when we haven't studied these guys enough to have full opinions. But if you're trying to be like the 3rd best quarterback in this year's draft class or Spencer Rattler, how far away do you think Spencer Rattler is from being the 3rd best quarterback in this year's draft class?
Probably not that far off. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you got to weigh him against that too. I mean, he's shown you things that I think are encouraging. He's shown you things that I think are discouraging too. So you just kind of got to weigh all of it. But if you like somebody better than him, I'm taking him. If I don't, I'm not. But you also have to weigh it against what you're not getting with that pick as well, and do like the sum of all the parts and all of it. And I just don't think there's anyone that's going to convince you to do it at that point. But I'll say this: like, I don't know that I would have been convinced by Penix last year, and that would have been a great pick at that spot. So,
maybe to be determined. I mean, he could struggle too.
He's shown you enough potential though that I think it's worth chasing. It wasn't just like an outright disastrous miss.
Right.
But like, I think Spencer's giving you things that you would be encouraged by too. So, I'm okay with all options in that range. But at this point, if you're asking me to pick one before like somebody else like emerges or whatever, I'm going Rattler at that point. And I've already said I'd rather play Rattler over Carr just because of where the team's at. Like, save the money, move on, be terrible, or find your quarterback.
We're both in that category, and that wasn't even part of this discussion. But it is going to be for the Saints. Quick question: % chance that Derek Carr is the Saints quarterback? Where are you thinking right now? We don't know the coach yet, so.
I'd probably say like 65.
That's fine. I was going to say 60 exactly.
Yeah.
I think they're going to keep Carr. I would do the save money and try out Rattler and be bad. And not necessarily be bad. It'd be fun to try to win with Rattler.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like there's just such a big money aspect to it too.
The money.
Moving on to the next topic, presented by Shea Bear Insurance, the Earhart Agency. Which Saints coaches should be coveted elsewhere? The Jets have requested to talk to Darren Rizzi. Clint Kubiak has been requested by Cleveland and the Seahawks, and there'll probably be more for him in time. Is there anybody else on the staff that you feel like you're expecting to see hook on somewhere? For me, it's probably Michael Hodges.
I was going to say too. And I guess we should talk about Dennis Allen here too. I think you mentioned there's some interest in him. There should be some interest in him around the league. Yeah, I think I mentioned it early. I think if Kellen Moore or Joe Brady or even Aaron Glenn or Mike Kafka or who are some of the other guys getting interviewed elsewhere, I think any of those guys, especially the younger guys, should want a Rizzi on their staff. The game management stuff, hand it over to him. Let him hold the red challenge flag if you want. Let him be in the booth, being the guy in my ear telling me if I should challenge it, if I should call timeout. His rules mastery, his alpha personality that we've seen, great, the ideal assistant head coach and top probably 5 special teams coordinator. I think he should be coveted.
No doubt.
I'm still pro Clint Kubiak in the right situation. I mean, I think he would be great to work in that system under somebody that has just, I think it makes sense for Cleveland and Seattle to interview him, to go back to work for Kyle Shanahan. That's not going to happen because his brother just got that job. But that kind of thing. I think I like the way they run. I don't think they have all the answers. I don't know if their play calling is his strength, the in-game management is his strength, but I like the way that him and his entire staff installs an offense. I think he should land somewhere with a team that doesn't need a savior necessarily. I think Mike Hodges will probably continue to get interviews. And I do wonder actually if he could be Aaron Glenn's defensive coordinator. I don't know what their relationship was exactly when they were together. But he's a guy that it's maybe an indictment on him that Zach Bond and Caden Ellis have done so well. But I don't think his reputation necessarily took a hit this year. I think he'll still get some looks.
Look, DA should be he'll be like the top DC in the league, and if you don't think so,
I said Hodges.
Hodges.
Yeah.
Oh, DA. I thought you were talking about DA. I was
talking about Hodges.
I think DA's gonna have like his pick of jobs. As long as DA doesn't want to go off and learn how to write poetry or spend a year skiing or whatever it is. Like I think DA. I wouldn't be surprised to see DA as AG's defensive coordinator or DA as Ben Johnson's defensive coordinator. Like I think he's going to be tied in on one of these new staffs, and I think he's going to be he was a good DC, and that's like if you can get somebody that was a head coach that's back as a coordinator, that feels like a win. It'd be like if the Saints got Saleh, like you'd be like, oh my god, like that what a get. Like that's how people are going to look at DA, and that's the temperature around like the league. Like I was asking people about their candidates. I was asking about DA. Like DA is still Like he's gonna get a job.
Is that weird? Would that be weird for Aaron Glenn to hire DA?
No, because like
if you're Aaron Glenn and you're trying to establish yourself and you bring in your former boss who's been a 2-time head coach and you're saying, no, I'm the head coach, he's the assistant. Like, is there any weird? Does that concern you in any way? No.
No, I mean, like the whole thing is it would be weird for maybe DA, but like he's never going to be a head coach again. So like it doesn't. You're beyond that. You gotta. He's already died that ego death. Like you just gotta go do it. Yeah. No, I don't think.
I don't think Spagnuolo.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. I mean, you see that stuff sometimes too. It's like the dude in Denver that went back to Denver. Like it's just kind of like once you get beyond that, just take the best job possible for you. And if you can just put him in a role where he's cooking up game plans and everything, and even if like AG's calling the plays, like that's a great situation for him. And I think like. The Ben Johnson, like he's gonna have to put together a staff. Like I think DA would be of high consideration on that one. I think there's a few spots where he could end up. Hodges, I could see being part of a AG staff, and even if it was here, like I would love that. Like to see him get that shot. Feels like that could be something. Brian Young's interesting to me. Like he kind of, I feel like rose his stock late in the season here, but I don't know if anyone's going to hire him.
Does he have a lifetime contract here?
I feel like he might end up going to Denver. I'm interested to see what happens with Kevin Petrie. Like the Saints and Denver fought over him when Sean was putting together his first staff. Does he end up out in Denver? He was like a offensive assistant on the quarterbacks. I'm interested to kind of see what happens there. There's a bunch of them that I think will end up, getting. Keith Williams will probably definitely.
I was going to bring him up if you didn't. Yeah, like how about from a Saints standpoint? You want to tear ties, and I said I think Rizzi's fantastic, but I don't think he can be here because everyone else would, the next head coach would lose a little authority if Rizzi was here. But Keith Williams is a guy that I think could stay here, and it would not be like too much of a tie to the past. I think they found a really good hire there. He might be a guy that would fit any staff, and he didn't come prepackaged with Kubiak and Kubiak's offense either. So
no, he was like an add-on. Yeah.
Real quick, this is a separate question, but. Let's say Aaron Glenn gets the Saints job and Mike Hodges is his defensive coordinator. He brings in his own defensive coordinator. How similar is his defense to Dennis Allen's defense? Are they running the same defense here?
It's very. I mean, you watch it and you see it's a lot of the same stuff. Yeah, I mean, he's putting his own twist on things and everything. Yeah. But when you watch it feels like familiar. You know what I mean?
Is that a negative or a positive either?
I think it was a good scheme. Like. I know everything that like touched DA's plate, like everyone thinks it went sour, but like I think it's a good scheme. They're gonna go to the Super Bowl with that defense. I don't see it
fantastic the other night.
I don't see how it's a negative, and it's the same thing. Like I understand, like anyone listening, no, DA's terrible coach, all this stuff. Like no, he was a good DC, and that's how he's gonna be. He's gonna be viewed that way. He's gonna be coveted as a coordinator if he wants to do it. And I don't think AG running his scheme is a negative at all. Like he's running it well. It's not Pete Carmichael running Sean Payton's offense. It's AG successfully running a defense.
It will be man coverage,
and he will bring it back.
It'll be aggressive. Yes. What AG independent head coach X hiring a defensive coordinator? Do you look at this roster and you want a system that they've been running for their entire careers and it matches them? Or do you want to see someone bring in a 3-4 and change out half the players?
No, I don't want to run no 3-4.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you're okay with these guys were all drafted to fit this system, so let's keep running it and let's just do it better?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm totally fine with it. Yeah. I have no repercussions about the defensive system if you got a good coach running it. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with our Martin's questions of the day. Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin's is your go-to destination for everything merry and bright this holiday season. From an unmatched selection of bourbon, whiskeys, and wines to gourmet food, gift baskets, and catering, Martin's has all your holiday needs covered. Family owned and operated since 1946, Martin's knows the perfect ways to celebrate this season with loved ones. Visit them in Metairie, New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or shop online for the ultimate convenience. Whether you're raising a glass or looking for the perfect holiday gift, make it an easy and cheerful holiday with Martin's.
Score! Score big with Saints Score. Win up to $100,000. Enter the second chance drawings for cool Saints prize packages. Play Saints Score scratch-offs from the lottery.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees. All just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, the crown jewel of entertainment destinations. From the thrill of gaming, where every spin and deal brings you closer to fortune, to the excitement of sports betting, where you can feel the rush of victory. Our spaces and catering menu are perfect for any event. From business meetings to grand celebrations, immerse yourself in our vibrant atmosphere with live music that keeps the party going all night long. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
All right, welcome back to the show. It is now time for the Martin's questions of the day. We do two of them. If you're looking for, bourbons, wines, liquors, go check out Martin's. But
sandwiches.
They also have a deli. They got great sandwiches. They got salads. Great little place to eat lunch locations. Multiple. There's one nearby you, so make sure you go and check them out. All right, when the Saints signed Derek Carr 2 years ago, obviously they structured the contract the way it did, and the question here is, what was their plan to be set up like this with his?
Yeah, I
with
think
his cap hit?
I picked this question, and I think it was we've explained how they've put themselves in sort of an impossible choice. If they cut him, it's a $50 million cap hit that hits right away. That makes it really hard to cut him. But no, this is not a surprise. This is how it was designed. This is what they knew was going to happen when they restructured him last year. All along, I think the intention was that this is a 3-year deal. $30 million the first year, $30 million the second year, $40 million the third year. 3 years, $100 million. I think that was always the intention of this contract. Baker Mayfield had success a year later, and they wrote up the exact same contract: $30 million, $30 million, $40 million, 3-year, $100 million deal. There is a fourth year on it that is $50 million. I think that was always intended to sort of be ripped up and thrown away. So this would be a year early from what they hoped. It would be very difficult to move on from him now. But only $10 million of it is guaranteed, so you did leave yourself an out if you decide to do what both me and Nick would do, which is, hey, let's take our medicine. Same thing with what Denver did with Russell Wilson. I don't want him being our quarterback. I want to draft a quarterback. Let's take our medicine. So I would do that, but yeah, this was always the ideal time to move on was always going to be next year, not this year.
Yep. And going on to our next one, should people worry about the pattern we've seen with the Buzz cosigns of AG being similar to the Buzz cosigns of Dennis Allen?
we just
or does this have a different feel? Yeah. Look, it's anything to do with Dennis Allen is just stinky and terrible and awful and all that stuff. But look, they're two completely different people.
Well, and here's the other thing. So Kevin articulated this well on the members only. He's one of the people that's a little concerned. Is the biggest concern with getting the Dennis Allen hire wrong was that it was kind of predetermined, that they went into that coaching search thinking they were going to hire Dennis Allen. They even had those comments when they hired him. Hey, my job, I've been interviewing for this job for 6.5 years. Mickey Loomis said that. Dennis Allen said that. He was the guy they had in mind. They interviewed a couple other guys. They stuck with the guy they wanted. And I don't even blame them for that, because we all understood it. The team was in good shape. Dennis Allen, we all thought he was the leading candidate. He's who we would have picked too. They got that one way wrong. I don't think this is the same thing. I don't think they've predetermined that Aaron Glenn is going to be their coach, and they're not taking the coaching search seriously. I think Aaron Glenn's a different person. I think even if he had no ties to the Saints whatsoever, the fact that he has ties to everything that has gone so well with the Lions the last few years would put him high on the list. So I am not concerned that that means we're happy with the way everything's going and we don't want to change a thing. I think that's almost more of a coincidence than anything else.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's episode of this show, the New Orleans.Football show presented by PJ's Coffee. You aren't signed up for our website. Make sure you do that today. You got the members only podcast that Mike referenced a few times. Got the Nick cast that I do on there. Answered about 100 of your questions on Tuesday.
Don't miss that.
We're going to do that every Tuesday and throw in some other ones. And for all of our news, analysis, write-ups, everything, sign up for New Orleans.Football. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you next time.